So let me start by thanking our brothers and sisters from Algeria. For me, from what I feel is a wonderful 2 days of good work, of getting to know each other, of hopefully speaking frankly to each other, knowing each other's culture, food, tastes. I can't forget last night, before we went, last night's dinner, we spent some time on the presentations that came from Algeria. We had a very good presentation on investment from my sister, investment requirements on equipment acquisition, capital share, relocation from abroad. I'm just looking at these, and I was left with 2 questions, which I hope that in our future meetings we'll answer them. We wanted clarity on this question of administrative harnessing. I think it's about the law and intellectual property protection. Just a bit of clarity, what it means for... So Uganda company and Algerian company have come together, formed a joint venture. They are now going to invest in Algeria and vice versa. What does that admin harnessing mean? I think we left it for future answers. And then the other one was a special economic zone to see if we can get our special zone in Entebbe, which we are now connecting with a special zone in Nairobi and connect it to a special zone in Algiers, so that a commodity can leave Entebbe already either disaggregated for that market or aggregated with all the standards and paperwork complete, and lessen the middle activities that increase the cost. I think those were 2 that in that presentation, and we agreed that it's an ongoing conversation. We will have them answered through our business council meetings. I'm not asking that we get answers today. We had from Sonergas production of meters, we had training, we had production of transmitters, and so therefore, without taking time, today I felt that we are narrowing down to what we wanted. I don't feel like I have 70% of what I expected, but when you get 50, you are good. It's a starting point. We're getting to know each other. I wanted breakout sessions and see if we can dig more each sector. But perhaps I was asking for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in one go. Maybe there's always a time to do something and then come next. I know we have an exhibition outside. It strengthens our knowledge of each other. And this work will be ongoing once we can follow through. So I just wanted to paint a picture for you, just to remind you again, us as Africans. So the economy of the world is $100 trillion, 2022 figures. $100 trillion, one country owns 25 trillion of that. We know which country that is. And that country, okay, can't even mention them, there's no harm, you can go and check these figures. The US alone controls 25 of that 100 trillion. China is on the heels of the US at 20 trillion. That's why you have a semi-Cold War going on. And for us in Africa, those of us who are steeped in history, we know what Cold Wars can do. They start as economy, but they can translate into many other things. So if you have 2 countries with 45 trillion of the 100 trillion, and by the way, if I add, let me see, if I add Germany at 4 trillion, if I add Japan at 4.9, if I add France, if I add UK, because these are Western markets where the US is influential, the US alone climbs to somewhere around 45 of that 100 trillion. So when I come down and look at Africa, it's just 3 trillion. Very small. Of that 3 trillion, Uganda is 50 billion. Algeria is somewhere around 163. So between us who have been in this room for the last 3 days, it is, when I speak, I have context and facts. So if you get bored, please tell me. But if we don't have context, we will not do much in life. In a market of 100 trillion, the two countries that have signed an MOU, a bilateral, that have traveled across the ocean, that have spent nights and dinners, enjoyed each other, in between us, we are 213 billion. If you have a market of 213 billion amongst yourselves, and you have these giants, elephants sitting on you, you have to be very strategic in your conversations as companies, as well as governments, as well as regulators. Because in my world, there is no such a thing as the market is waiting for me, it is seated, and I will get it whenever I want to get it. I am sorry, that's not how it is in business. Algeria has had supply chains for the last 70 years of goods and services that they acquire from particular countries. They will not stop those supply chains, their pricing, to say, oh, Uganda is in the room, now we must give them space. Uganda must do market mapping, and I'm hoping that's what we've been part of it, market mapping. Uganda has to be sectoral and product specific, what it is looking for. And then, I'm using Uganda, but it's also for Algeria. It has to look, in this market of 50 billion or 163, what is the size of the pie of each of those sectors we are focusing on? Because the size of the pie is also competed for by Brazil, by Netherlands, by Switzerland. Those countries are not going to change just because we've spent 3 days here. They will continue to strengthen their supply chains and lessen their cost of production to keep you out. Therefore, you have to say, of this size of the pie, what is the slice we are looking for Uganda in those sectors? What is this little slice like a piece of soap we are looking for as Algeria in the Uganda market? Yesterday I showed you the figures from Japan, from India. What is the slice of the pie is Algerian companies looking for? This should be some homework for the Business Council, because we will not be able to get clarity of what we supply and what we receive if we don't think that way. Once we fix that, then we can say, what is the route to the market? How do we attack each other's markets? That's how transportation and logistics come in. So for me, sitting here since morning, what I have picked here from my team is that we have had 14 investment projects, 14, or proposals of various stripes and color. Investment in pipes, production of pipes. I think I saw a wonderful gentleman who makes GRP pipes, glass reinforced polyester pipes. Investment in cement. So you had the cost of a bag in Algeria and here. I didn't want to get into that conversation because I know why our bag is at $8, and it means that there is room for improvement. So I can tell you, for example, we produce 6 million tons of cement. Our projected growth with stability in Eastern Congo, because when a country gets stable, people build houses, you build roads, you make bridges. Our projected growth in the next 10 years is 6 million added to becomes 12 million tons of cement. That's why you have some cement companies opening in eastern Uganda where there is limestone. Now, that growth might even be outstripped if we add $10 billion to our GDP on oil and gas starting 2025. It might be more tonnage. So we now need to look at does someone import cement from Algeria? In the meantime, as they find a site to produce this cement locally for South Sudan, for Eastern Congo, for Uganda, Kenya is producing about 12 million, but it's not enough. East Africa is the second fastest growing region in the world. So everything from food to construction materials is really is kind of going up. So can we have a structured conversation around cement and pricing and which company is there and what incentives and what to do? I heard about cosmetics, soap, oil. I heard about poultry and poultry equipment. I heard about cranes and machinery, assembling them. Loading cranes, building cranes, I hope I heard very well. Huh? I had lights, either assembly of incandescent lights or bulbs or whatever it is, or solar. I heard about a bit of steel and iron. I was not sure that I really got what I was looking for in that aspect in terms of iron, and because here East Africa imports $3 billion annually of steel from India, China, and Japan. Remember, I told you that we would want to divert part of that market somehow to our brothers in Africa. So if you want to divert part of that market of East Africa, you got to look at the iron ore deposits we have, 300 to 500 million metric tons of iron ore, but we are using prefabricated iron. We don't have reinforced steel. Now you need a company from extraction to smelting to production of sponge to smithing to steel. Now, whether this steel company I saw can get us to that level, let us be specific on that sector. I heard about equipment for sewage, equipment for production of making of dams, irrigation systems, shoe manufacturing, and we ended with this company called Kanda or Kondo, and I kept wanting to know, are we assembling? Are we manufacturing bits of intermediate equipment there, or are we supplying the market? We are competing with LG and Philips for the market. So for me, I look for that specificity, because an elephant, just like an economy, you take a piece by piece. If you just keep thinking, I'm hunting an elephant, it's too big for you. So step by step. So under investment, this is for me the areas that we picked, and they came down to 14, and I'm hoping our team, Maria and everyone agrees on that. So we want to follow those 14. So don't give me 100 for now. Let me first deal with those 14. If I can get 5 successful, I thank God for that, okay? This summit will not have been in vain. So that's investment. Then I had number 2, trade. Trade, I heard that Algeria can take fresh, boneless, vacuum-packed beef up to 10,000 metric tons a year. So if we have beef companies, they need to know that the beef market in Algeria is not sitting and saying, welcome Uganda. Sorry, the beef comes from Argentina and Brazil, and it comes very nicely packed and arrives at a competitive price. So we have some homework to fix internally on this issue. I also heard that we need some coffee, some 5,000 metric tons of coffee, and it is green. I don't like green. I'm unhappy with green. But they say neziko kolimagali maji in Luganda, that even the chickens you see in the yard, they were eggs. Perhaps we could speak about taking 10%, very small, 10%, and say, can we roast it and vacuum pack it and send it as premium roasted coffee? This is internal conversation we need to have. I also had dairy products. some 8 to 10,000 metric tons annually of dairy products, already with an agreement. So trading, from my paper here, we have 3 commitments for us to lift from Uganda to Algeria. Number 3, I'm taking a lot of time, but this is my only opportunity to say, what did we do? Because after midnight, I want to think, did I waste my time, or did this make sense and we can follow through? So number 3, and this is a critical area that causes us a bit of... so I left out things like nuts and cereals, because fruits and vegetables, these are things that I have people in the room who are trading these in the USA and in Europe. But the heavy lifters to really give us a learning curve: dairy, coffee, beef, then we can now add a few other things. Now, so the third area that I picked here is called logistics and transport. And this is where the pot of water breaks close to the house. You've carried in Africa, where we don't have piped water yet in some homes, we carry water in pots, distances. So you've carried a pot of water for 5 kilometers. As soon as you're about to enter the house, the pot crashes and breaks. For me, the trouble there is logistics and transport. And we have to sit together with our brothers and sisters from Algeria and the regulators, because there are some things that can be done to lessen the cost of transport. One of them is return cargo. So how do we deal with return cargo out of Algeria? Can we, for example, speak about electronics, importing electronics from Algeria? Electronics don't weigh heavily, but they can take some space. I'm talking about ship and road now, and rail. I have not yet arrived at air, because air becomes another issue. We need to have a BASA, bilateral air service agreement, but even then, the cost of flying these things should be premium, real time, not, I don't want to use it as the point of transport for scale. So, can we import some cement as return cargo? I was hoping that we could convert some of the fertilizer imports. We could convince the companies that are importing the $33 million worth of fertilizer imports for coffee, for tea, to divert a bit of that into Algeria. But I've been told, and I kind of have an idea, that it's Morocco and Tunisia, I think, produce some of these fertilizers, not Algeria. I think you two import and repack. So maybe I'm wrong. Again, the Business Council meeting needs to help us to know. Is there a possibility to land fertilizer at a cheap price, if it is only, if we fail for other things, to balance the cost of shipment from Uganda by having return cargo? Is it possible to import steel? Okay, so if we're getting steel from India, Japan, South Korea, is there some mathematics we can do around that to ensure that we bring in steel? Can we bring in gas? Things like that. Just thinking off my feet, I think we need now to put the pen to paper and have the real numbers and follow through case by case. I'm speaking about return cargo because without it, it's very difficult to reduce the unit cost of transport for our coffee, for our beef. We have to figure out what to do. That's just one way. The other way that I'm thinking about, so my sister Geraldine, the PS, is in the room. Yesterday, because I don't connect daily with government institutions, I work as a businessman quickly, I had no idea that we could use import permits to protect the market for particular products on a quid pro quo basis. So I give you an import permit for something, but you also give me open door for something in terms of taxes. Yeah? So if we selectively, and I hope Geraldine will speak about this, if we selectively use our regulatory powers, government, to emphasize bringing in products that don't undermine our productive capabilities, but they are good because the economy is growing, we don't have enough, they are highly priced. You had a gentleman there say, I must bring in cement now. $2 versus $8, I will succeed. I was counseling him there, say you need to look at many things, but we'll talk about this quietly off the microphone. So if we can use the power of regulation to bring in particular products and take some products, there's a conversation we are doing with one South European country. We are saying if you put our entry of roasted coffee at 3% and move it from 17%, we too can bring in tractors assembled by you at zero tax. So these, our bilateral agreements, we need to look at that in order for us to deal with this issue of return cargo. I'm taking a lot of time, so I just wanted you to know, for me, that's my number 3 trouble. So we're trying to make sure that Entebbe can speak to Nairobi, Nairobi can speak to Algiers, and see how to fix this pricing of transportation and logistics. It is the reason New Zealand will beat us. Brazil will beat us. And these are our brothers and sisters, but they are not going to smile when the price is 10 times higher. You have to compete in the market. Finally, standards. The way we pack and package our products, our own standards, to have a way we can do mutual recognition of each other's food safety standards, packaging standards, so that our products, if we are able to digitize this piece of paper to reflect our standards, then this qualifies anywhere in the Maghreb, starting with Algeria. Now, Minister of Agriculture people are not here. Is Dr. Mwambu here? So it's a Sunday, they didn't come. Now, so we are working out to establish a food ombudsman, a food IGG, the one who looks at animal health, plant health, animal feeds, and then say, but this certification, don't put non-tariff trade barriers. You are an enemy if you do, because we have satisfied the very standard needed to trade with each other in Africa. It's a process, but we are somewhere. We're still in the consulting stage to how do you build a process like that. We will be able to achieve this. So let me really stop here. From what I heard, total is 17 companies. If I add the 3 trading companies and the 14 investing companies for follow-through, our end of the 3 is 17 Algerian companies that have committed in various ways and means to work with us on solving this problem of low sales for Algeria here and Uganda's ability to sell in the Algerian market. So the young people who are seated in that corner are going to compile. We need each person's, each company, by the way, including Ugandan companies. Please, where is your profile? Where's your website? Who is your managing director? Where are their business cards? All these per sector, per company, should be compiled as part of our outcomes. And then we say, these are the deals or commitments of the people who came here. These are the gray areas which we need to investigate with facts. This is, remember what I used as a pie and a slice of the pie that we're able to exploit in Algeria and vice versa. And then that business council will make sense only when you have those. So when I heard that the business council wants to meet today, you see, for me, I learn every minute. If we sit in the business council, we can do the diplomatic picture and wave. But a business council should be a war council. A war council looks at equipment, machinery, skill, and say, are we ready to make these moves? So I heard that it's been shifted to tomorrow morning. But me, I think that we should have a more structured session that says, this is what we came to do, this is what we found, this is what we can deal with now, this is what we can plan for. You know, if you know you will fail tomorrow, you plan today. If transport is trouble tomorrow, you think about it today so that whenever you announce what you found, you are really helpful to the private sector. So when this council meets, this for me should be the presentation. And then we can now go to the diplomats, to government institutions, to the president, and say, people, we need to subsidize a bit perhaps of this transport and logistics if we have to compete. Because I have had a good report from Algerians. You have good milk, you have good beef, you have good food, but man, by the time you land, impossible. We can't get you in. They are not going to get us in for lunch. Other people are already getting in, smarter, cheaper. So we have to work together and say, what can we do to meet in the middle? I would like to stop here. I thank you so much, Your Excellency Walid, for your consistent work for our both countries, for all the pushing. You know, you've been coming here telling private companies, no, explain better. This gentleman acts like a general manager of a company, not a diplomat. Eh? So I want to thank you for all the hard work. I want to thank the chamber, Mrs. Chigongo, who hasn't been here today. I want to thank the Minister of Trade. My sister Geraldine is here. Minister of Agriculture, His Excellency the President, who met you yesterday. And now it's time to go to work. The words have to stop because we now know a bit of each other. We have focused on some products and sectors. Now the taste of the pudding is in the eating, as the English say. Thank you. God bless you.